the ones that were pointing out like, oh, this is different to the book, or this is very condensed. Like, I understand if you are a very like you've read the books and you're very loyal to the books, it would have felt very different. I'm fine with viewing it as this is an alternate telling. Like, this is a clearly more condensed telling, because there's no doubt going to be more things that are condensed and tweaked and slightly different to the books.
What I don't understand is how people can say, well, it didn't get the viewership, stop blaming people who are horrible about the show. The big problem is that they announced that on the 30th of August, a mere 21 days after it came out in theatre, that it would be going to online streaming. So,
Was the show the strongest Star Wars show ever? No. Does it deserve to be cancelled? No, it's had one season. I fear the bigger ramifications of this is we will never leave the Skywalker saga.
hello and welcome back to Cutscene Convos. It is episode 128. We've got a very busy episode this week. We've got a character profile on the one and only Elektra. We've got our preview on Rings of Power Season 2. We're also going to do a little roundup of everything coming in the second half of the year. We're going to try and tackle what is killing film and TV. As always, we've got the Nerd News Network. But before that good stuff, Horizontal, how's your week been?
My week's been pretty good. Been going to the gym. Not every day, yeah. But how many times have I been now? I think
You're an old man and you can't do it every day.
Well, I will get back to going 5 days a week. That is my plan. But I just didn't want to, after not going for a couple of years, I thought if I go back to going 5 days a week, I'm just going to burn myself out so fast.
You also this year injured your shoulder for 6 weeks and still don't really know how you did it.
Whoa.
So throwing yourself back into the gym would
just
be
want to clear that.
brave.
It was my bicep. And I do know how I did it. It's just, it was one of those injuries where it was like, oh, you tried doing something you used to be able to do without a second thought. And we were like, what the fuck? We haven't done this in years.
Punish him!
I mean, yeah, at the moment I'm keeping to cardio anyway. But it's been good to go back in the gym. It's nice.
Yeah.
I always realize that it's one of those things where it's like, now I'm back in the gym. I'm like, yeah, this always makes me feel so much better mentally and just in general. And I should know this and should have made more of an effort to keep going to the gym. But then you still let it slip and then...
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, it's always the case. But then other than that, play games. I've been playing Split Divide, was the end of that beta towards over the weekend. Was a lot of fun. I think it has some tweaks in he's doing. There was so like the aim and bloom and stuff could do with a tweak. Overall, I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people were giving it a bit of stick, but that's just people they're so harsh on games now.
Yeah, there is a very negative anything new mindset. It's crazy.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the concept of it and the whole having two bodies that you can switch between. I think it's a lot of fun. And then Splitgate came out yesterday.
Yeah, the alpha for that.
Yeah, so that's going to be taking over our lives for the next week while we have access, which will be very sad when that goes because I'm very excited.
Yeah, that closed on Sunday evening.
Yeah.
Which is, I thought it was going to close like Monday evening. I think I just tuned that because it's a bank holiday Monday.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it'll go till Monday, forgetting that it's just a bank holiday.
Maybe they'll extend it. Maybe we'll be lucky.
Maybe.
And then, yeah, just kind of catching up on Dropout shows. I spammed you the other night when I did a bit of a catch up on shows. I was like, I need to tell Connor there's new stuff.
Me and Jenna watched one of the Make Some Noise episodes last night or the night before, where it was it was Josh, Ruben, and two others whose name I forget, and they were all clearly impressionists.
Yeah.
Because all of obviously Make Some Noise is a bit impressionist anyway, but they their first two rounds of prompts were just celebrities in situations because they could all do some of the quality of their impressions were crazy. I couldn't believe incredibly talented people over there every week.
My understanding is always when they invite someone on, they're asked or they ask people that know them, can they do impressions of certain people? Have they got anything? Because they're all in that group of like comedians and do impressions stuff. So people who know them will pick up on what they do and don't. So he's surprised. I know Sam like surprises them with, "Oh, do an impression of this," and like, how did this? You can tell they're like, "How do you know that I do that impression?" The one that was this week that I know you're not caught up to, fucking hilarious. The funniest one in a long time. You need to like make some noise. We've said it many times, but Dropout is honestly the best streaming service. It's wild.
The value to money proposition is crazy. And if they kill your wife, they're not going to tell you can't sue them.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Sam wouldn't dare. His father would beat him.
Let alone that Brennan would beat him. But yeah, that's been my week. Yeah. How's your week been?
How's my week been? Chaos. We've been moved out for what, 4 months now? Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. It's gone fast.
Yeah. So like I'm like this is life now. I'm used to this. Which means now, like when my parents asked me to go round and dog sit for a weekend. Before, when they would go away for a weekend, I lived at home, and they went, "We're not going to be around for a weekend. Do you mind looking after the dog?" It's just, yeah, no worries. Of course, I'm literally here anyway. Yeah. Look after the dog. But now it's a case of, oh, that's my weekend gone. That is my Monday and Tuesday evening gone. I don't have any ability to play any video games. I won't have the ability to do any notes. I won't have the ability to do realistically anything. That's going to be
a Stream Deck.
I need a Steam Deck so badly.
Why don't you just bring the dog to yours? Or is he not good with?
It's not even that. It is a very small apartment, and he's a husky.
Yeah, he's.
He would probably love it here.
Yeah.
Because it'd be a new place, and he's a very inquisitive dog. It would stress him the fuck out, but also he is like the size of an actual person.
Don't see an issue.
And that's before, and that's before you like talk about like the size of all the food we'd have to bring around and stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, it's just like it's the first time that something's happened where I'm like, I've said yes to something instinctively when they asked like 2 months ago, because I'm like, yeah, why would that be a problem? And I'm like, oh wait, there are things that I haven't even thought about that I'd have to consider. Yeah, like we have to like cancel our HelloFresh order because we're not going to be here.
Now you sound like an adult.
Yeah, no, we're not going to be here on the Sunday when it gets delivered, or the Monday or the Tuesday for dinner. And most of the food only kind of lasts till like Friday, maybe Saturday. So there won't be enough time for the order. It's just it's getting old. Fucking sucks.
That's why I avoid it.
Yeah. Other than that, it's not been too bad. Just busy, weirdly busy, but not. I've had a week at work that would normally be described as a quiet down week, but somehow it still felt insanely busy, and I wasn't a fan of that. I was like, oh, this is a nice quiet week, and it just didn't feel like a quiet week, and that was weird. But other than that, I'm like, I'm chilling. I'm very aware we're coming up to the September slump, where numbers on all platforms go through the floor. The end of summer hits, so you get a little bit of like winter blues setting in.
Yeah, and you get youngsters all starting school, so they're all distracted with that.
Motivation for everything goes through the floor. Traffic, although my commute is basically non-existent, traffic does increase. Just everything bad happens over like a 3-week period. Not bad, inconvenient. So I'm just like, I just need to power through until like October.
I'm potentially gonna have a busy September.
Yeah.
Got one sister very close to.
Oh, you're still waiting for that, aren't you?
My other sister is very close to having my next niece or nephew, and there's a high potential that all happens within the same week. So that's gonna be chaos.
Horry's big week.
I'm gonna be like, right, drop my mum off here. Gotta go help move. It's just September, isn't it? It's always
it's just that time of year, man. Everything, and I'm sure every country has like a month that's similar. It'll probably change a bit depending on seasons, I feel. But yeah, just there's always 1 month a year where just everything fucking happens.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get into it. This week's character profile is on Elektra. take a little bit of a break from the boys' character profiles. We're moving on to some more traditional character profiles, as they would be. And I thought, let's go through some of the characters that were obviously a big part of Deadpool and Wolverine,
Some of the legacy
but maybe aren't as well known. So, Elektra Natchoice, aka Elektra, first appeared in Daredevil number 168 in October 1980. Elektra was born on a Greek island. Her mother died when she was incredibly young, and her father was a businessman who later turned into a diplomat. When she was much older, nearing her 20s, her father was assigned as the ambassador to the USA, meaning they both moved to America for his work. It was at this time she began attending Columbia University, the same university attended by the one and only Matthew Murdock. Elektra and Matthew would become lovers when they found each other running across rooftops. They began training together and became incredibly close, always at each other's sides. After a whirlwind romance, however, things got worse for Elektra, as her and her father were held hostage, and when a masked Matthew Murdock tried to rescue them, the ensuing fight caused police to open fire, with her father being shot in the crossfire. After her father's death, she decided to leave America and rejoin The Hand. The Hand is an organisation that had trained her in her younger days and had asked her to try and bring Matthew into their fold, which is what caused them to meet. Working more with the Hand, she slowly became a cold-blooded killer, only becoming more cold, calculated, and corrupted by their ways. Eventually, she would leave to work as a bounty hunter and assassin in her own right, while still being attached to the Hand. Upon returning to America years later, she had an encounter with Daredevil, whom she would later discover was Matthew Murdock. She then helped him take down Bullseye. Despite their disagreements about her work, they were able to work together to deal with a much more dangerous threat in Bullseye. This successful act of stopping Bullseye led to her getting a job as Kingpin's head assassin, which once again put her and Matt staunchly against each other. She went on to be killed by Bullseye, as he felt like she'd stolen his job as Kingpin's go-to assassin. She would be resurrected by the Hand and act completely under their control. It was only when Matt managed to purify her spirit and restore her fully that Elektra then left the Hand and began to try and do better. She went on to be a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Thunderbolts, and she even worked with the Heroes for Hire. When Matt went to prison for manslaughter, Elektra took over the role of Daredevil and kept Hell's Kitchen safe. Now that Matt is out of prison, they both work together as Daredevil, protecting the innocent. Elektra has had a very, very storied history.
Yeah.
She's a very, very famous creation that is synonymous with Daredevil now, to the point where you'd assume she'd always been around. But, I mean, Daredevil first started in the 60s, I believe. First appearance. Let me just double check that. Yeah, 64. So he'd been around for 16 years before Elektra and was a very different character. But then in the 80s, Frank Miller, iconic comic book artist and writer, took over the Daredevil run and dove a bit more into Matt's past. And as a part of that, Elektra as a character was created, and then he fleshed Elektra out, and she's grown into a character in her own right. As I said at the end there, she's still got an ongoing Daredevil comic alongside Matt's ongoing.
Cool.
They worked together a fair bit. She was a decent part of the recent gang war mini event that took place in the comics.
Cool.
So yeah, very, very interesting. She was a big part of repealing Fisk's law, which was put in place to fight vigilantism more aggressively in the Marvel Universe. Very, very cool character. And I do hope we get to see more of her in the MCU. The actress whose name I forget, who played her in the Netflix Daredevil series, did a very good job.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we might see her make a return at any point.
Possibly.
Right, horizontal.
Mm.
We're going into your wheelhouse here. Talk to me
Yes.
about Rings of Power. It's
Yes,
coming out
Rings of Power season 2 is a week, just over
next
a week.
Thursday. Yeah, 29th, I
29th.
believe.
Yeah, so a week today as we're recording this. So next week we will be no doubt discussing, I think it's episode 1 and 2 come out.
Oof.
I think it's a double drop. I'm going to double check that. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's Prime Video. It's normally going to be a double drop.
So we've had quite a few trailers.
We have.
I mean, I'm excited for it. I enjoyed season 1. I know that season 1 got a lot of gripe and a backlash from the hardcore fans, which
I think mixed response is very fair.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily like the ones that had respectful disagreements with the show were just like spewing, this is the worst thing ever. But the ones that were pointing out like, oh, this is different to the book, or this is very condensed. Like, I understand if you are you've read the books and you're very loyal to the books, it would have felt very different. I'm fine with viewing it as this is an alternate telling, like this is a clearly more condensed telling. And I think hopefully those fans remember that going into season 2. Because there's no doubt going to be more things that are condensed and tweaked and slightly different to the books. But I don't think that's going to take away from, hopefully not going to take away from the story.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. As you know, I'm not incredibly well versed in my Lord of the Rings. There were bits that left me a bit confused based on my knowledge, because I was like, oh, I didn't think that happened that way. And obviously you're like, no, it didn't. They've tweaked that slightly. And again, respectful dialogue is always important. When we flame people on the internet, as a general rule, we're talking to the people who are trying to use a disagreement about something to push bigoted views.
Yes.
People who don't enjoy this because they feel like it's a worse version of what they love, that's completely fair. All I would say to them is, don't just scream and cry about it every week and try and ruin it for other people.
Here's the thing. If you disliked the show, you watched a couple of episodes, you watched the whole season, you're like, this isn't like the books, it wasn't my favorite thing. Fine. But if you're one of these people that was essentially rage baiting every week, just purely to be like spewing anger and hate on the internet, purely because you know it gets content and gets views and clicks, so you're doing it on a, like, malicious isn't the right word, but like manipulative reasons.
It is malicious.
But yeah, like if you're those people, they're the people that we're like talking to. I went back, rewatched the trailers, the most recent one, just to try and see, because I'd watched it the first time, like just watched it through, and we talked about it, I think, after D23. But going back through and tried to pick up on things I noticed is we're clearly gonna, from the trailer at least, obviously, I don't know if you remember from season 1, but Sauron was in this form of a man called Halbrand, which was different to the books. He was originally like showed himself in elven form, and one of the big gripes in season 1 that I think was fair from the fans is they did the first 3 rings, and that was with Halbrand, where in the books it was when he was in elven form. We are seemingly going to see a mix of both. So at some point in season 2, he's going to like shift form, into his elven form called Anatar, which we're going to see, I think, a lot of in this season.
He was a big part of the trailers, if nothing else.
Yeah, so hopefully we get that side of Sauron told in a decent way, and hopefully that maybe appeases some of the gripes some people had. But obviously we're gonna get all the rings made, the downfall of the outcome of those rings being handed out, and Sauron's manipulation. There's so many different shots of him clearly in different points. There's obviously a big fight goes on, which I'm pretty sure is Eregion falling, which is like quite a pivotal city, which is the one where I think we're going to see the orcs fighting it, whatever. So that's obviously all going to go down, and he's going to be some influence on that. There's a shot of him in Khazad-dûm, or what seems to be Khazad-dûm.
Okay.
So why he's there, I don't know, whether it's him handing out the rings and his manipulation through that, or if it's going to... There's also potentially a lot of visions. This is the tough thing with the trailer. There's going to be a lot of visions because the rings, he influences their minds and stuff and starts messing with people's minds. Yeah, I think the big thing of this season is going to be the fight at Eregion. I think I'm saying that right. Because, slight spoiler, that city does fall.
I mean, most city falls, don't they?
Yeah, basically, I don't know how much, or what this timeline's going to be, because obviously they're going to condense things. I think this either ends with Eregion falling, and you're going to have like Elrond escaping, which is then when he goes off and discovers Rivendell. Or you're going to have the aftermath of that, which is the Numenorians, the ones that we saw on the island. They eventually come across to help, and them with the elves, that's when we get that big fight where they somewhat defeat Sauron in his mortal body, I guess. I lean to the idea that maybe we won't get that far into the story. Feels like that'd be very rushed.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see. There's obviously the wizards. They tease the... Now, I said a couple of weeks ago that I was like, oh, that was a shot of Saruman. I think a lot of people have the same idea that is Saruman that was shown. Some people don't want to accept that other guy that the stranger is Gandalf yet, because it's not been said. And there's still a theory that this could just be the two blue wizards, which is possible.
It could be kind of treating a bit of the blue wizard stuff and a bit of the Gandalf and Saruman stuff and condensing them as they've done with other things.
Yeah, I lean to just the way that he looked, the wizard that it showed us, gives me big Saruman just visually, and the other one obviously very visually gave us Gandalf, so I'm like, I lean to them too. And I'm pretty certain, I'm sure I'm remembering this right, but Saruman was the first wizard to arrive. So it would make sense if he's already somewhere established, then Gandalf's here. We know Tom Bombadil's in this, which I think will be very fun.
He's just like, correct me if I'm wrong, he's just like Chaos King.
Yeah, he's like the most powerful being in Middle-earth, but doesn't get involved in anything and just keeps to himself. So it'll be interesting to see how they weave that into the story. Probably it'll be a case of the stranger, or Gandalf as we'll refer to him as that sort of thing. He goes to talk to him, so there's probably going to be some discussion there. Trying to think what else went down in the trailer. Oh, so we got Adar and Galadriel talking.
Yes.
Originally, we were like, oh, that's them teaming up. I actually think, watching the trailer back, she clearly gets captured, and I think that's him trying to be like, look, Sauron's my enemy too, and trying to influence her to join his side. I think she then tries to flee. Something someone mentioned is they reckon there's going to be flashbacks for Sauron, and we're going to see him back in his first mortal form, and Adar will be the one that killed his original mortal form.
Interesting.
That's why they've got like this beef. Which I think, if that's how they do that, I'm happy with that, because obviously Adar was written for this show. I'm okay if it's like they're pulling him in that sense of like tying that into the story. I'm just looking forward to seeing like the different, because obviously we're gonna have Elrond, not Gilgamesh, the other Elven King. I'm forgetting his name now. It'll come back.
That's fine.
But obviously how he develops, we're gonna get Khazad-dûm's. I don't want to see it fall. I think it'd be very, because I said this in season 1, like we should not have the Balrog waking up yet.
Yeah.
I'm worried that they're gonna have Khazad-dûm fall. If they do, I hope it's right at the end. I think that'd be too condensing.
Or if they just like even just show the Balrog starting to cause a bit of chaos, right?
Yeah,
As like the end, as like the cliffhanger to end the season.
Yeah, if anything, I'm okay if they start to show like some of the deep mines are getting like collapsed, and there's like hush hush whispers of like something is awoken, we've mined too deep, but they're keeping it like hush. I'm okay with that, and then we know, okay, they're Khazad-dûm's doomed. But yeah, I saw some article and I can't remember the number, but it was some ridiculous amount of extras had been dressed in full orc
really?
VF, like
Okay.
actual practical effects for these big fights. It seems like they're gonna get back to a bit of like the old school Lord of the Rings films where they did these big scale fights with full people in like costumes, and which I think would be really good.
I'm not being funny. Of all of the franchises in the world, getting a bunch of people who are willing to dress up and do a fake war, Lord of the Rings has got the most willing participants.
You could get so many people that it's like, oh, we need extras to be orcs. You'd have lines of people. Obviously, it's more than anything, it's a time thing to get all those people in makeup and all those people like.
Yes, and it is expensive to do all that makeup because the caliber of makeup artists you need to do it for that many people are not cheap.
No.
Rightfully so.
So I think that fight is going to be really cool. And I think will be shot really well, hopefully. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to get back, see how the story progresses, see how these characters develop, hopefully starting to get them closer to what we would expect. I'm hoping Galadriel maybe develops a bit more towards what we would expect from her character to be more like.
The whole idea with elves is they live forever.
Hmm.
So the idea that they can grow and change a lot kind of holds up.
Yeah. I think there was
like,
just...
It's very possible, like, although obviously it's not perfect, it's very possible that she was a bit selfish and had a bit too much hubris, and then when it all went to shit, she did some soul searching and realised what was wrong, and then the Galadriel we see in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is like someone who's learnt from them mistakes and is trying to do a better job.
Well, there's... At the end of the trailer, there's the shot where she's facing off with Sauron.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be some... Whatever that little face-to-face is, she's obviously going to... She obviously doesn't get defeated, and Sauron doesn't, but he's probably going to best her, and she's probably going to then realise, oh, like, this isn't something I can do on my own. Like, there is no one person that... Like, this is a collective effort it's going to take to beat Sauron. And that kind of development I'm hoping will happen. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. The first 2 episodes should be interesting, picking up from where things ended.
Yeah, it's going to be probably quite a too intense first episodes. Just trying to catch up on everything. Remember because there were so many plot lines going in different directions. Trying to remember where everything was to like get back up to speed is going to take a little while.
Hopefully they start to kind of, at least in this season, some of those storylines kind of rejoin, like the Númenóreans and stuff. That would be good to see. So then we're not bouncing around everywhere as much. But all I would hope is that the fans, obviously there's plenty of people that did love the show. I'm sure they're going to enjoy it like us. But the ones that like maybe had mixed feelings or didn't think it was that great, if they are going to watch it, hopefully they're not too spit their dummy out about things.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can...
At the end of the day, just let people enjoy things. You can go, I'm not enjoying this, so I'm not going to watch anymore. But don't watch it every week, seething with anger, just so you can tell everyone else that they shouldn't like it.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. And we've got plenty of other things to look forward to in the back half of this year as well. So let's talk about some of them.
Busy second half of the year, really.
Really busy September, October especially.
Yeah, quite a bit in December actually.
Yeah. So of course, as we've just finished talking about, we have Rings of Power,
Yes, we do.
which is very, very exciting. That comes out obviously on the 29th.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we'll do is we'll go through all these, then we'll talk about what we're most excited for, what we're least excited for, and what's maybe our dark horse.
Okay. Okay.
Next up, we've got the Penguin TV show, set
Mhm.
obviously in Matt Reeves' Batman universe,
Yes.
which comes out on the 8th of September.
Mm.
I'm very excited for that. I know you're very excited for that.
Yes.
So we'll have to wait patiently and see, but I've got good feelings. Next up, another TV show.
Yeah.
Agatha All Along, of course, on Disney Plus. That
Mhm.
starts on September 18th.
Yes.
Finally, the continuation from WandaVision,
WandaVision. Yeah. How
which
many
was
years has it
5
been?
years ago,
It's 5. God.
I believe so. Um, so we will see. I'm very curious about this project, and
Mm.
not all of it is a good curious. Um,
Yeah, we'll see.
it has an opportunity to do something well. It's been in production long enough. It has a solid cast. I'm not
Mhm.
sure it's my particular cup of tea.
We could be surprised.
Hmm. Next up, we have another TV show. This is an animated show,
Yep.
The Legend of Vox Machina.
Mhm.
Of course, the animated TV show based on the Critical Role live action D&D campaign
Campaign
of the
1.
same name.
Mhm.
This is
This
season
is
3.
Yep, season 3.
This starts on the 3rd of October.
Yes.
We are both incredibly excited for this.
Oh yeah. I'm
And
like
well, let's put it this way. Let's be clear. We are in the process of trying to organise a D&D one shot for
yes.
us and friends.
I am slowing things
And
down.
I mean, you won't be the only one that ends up slowing things down.
I know.
But I would be very happy in saying I have been probably the loudest champion of this little let's play
Yes.
D&D. And it all kind of started from this show. It was,
Yeah.
this show's really cool. I see how the natural things that will happen while playing a game where anything can happen creates better storytelling.
Hmm.
So this story is going to feel more unique, and you're going to have weird moments, and that makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
And then from that, there was Baldur's Gate 3,
Yes.
which really kicked it off because I understood the game mechanics a bit more. And
Mhm.
now I've got Dropout that has
Don't-
D20, which is phenomenal.
Don't forget the D&D film as well that we watched.
Yeah, the Dungeons and Dragons film, again, in love with that. Hollywood, greenlight more of them.
Yeah.
So this is probably the most excited I've been for a piece of D&D related media, because
Mm.
this is the height of my obsession with D&D currently.
Yeah.
So I'm in the perfect mindset for this.
I feel like I remember when this season 1 was coming out. Was it? No, season 2 was coming out, and I recommended you went and watched season 1.
Yeah.
To which you then really enjoyed, and we like obviously you went in with like very surface level understanding of what D&D was.
Yeah. But the
I
beauty
feel
of
like
Vox Machina is you don't need to understand what D&D is at all.
no, you don't. It's as long as you like fantasy, you can enjoy it. It's an animated fantasy TV series. The bonus is the fans that have watched Critical Role get to be like, oh, I remember that moment when I watched it.
Yeah. But even people who haven't watched Critical Role, but people who have played D&D or
Yeah,
understand D&D,
also, yeah.
will see moments from the show, and they're like, "Oh, that person buffed that
Yeah.
they've rolled horrifically."
Oh, that's
there,
that
or
ability.
That was
Oh.
or that was an amazing roll right there.
Yeah.
What a goated decision.
So, but also like the fact that you've now been watching Dropout and you have a much stronger understanding of the mechanics of the game, it'll be interesting to see you getting to watch this time.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited.
The fun
and
part
the story's phenomenal.
Yeah, the fun part for me is trying to remember where we ended. I might have to go back and watch a recap because I like
ended
trying
with,
to remember
the halfling paladin.
Pike.
Yeah, getting stabbed by Grog. because the sword had been corrupting his mind.
Oh yeah.
That's the last thing I remember.
Yes.
And that was right
Yes.
near the
The
end. It was either the
Craven's
second to last
Edge.
episode. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we'd had Vax make a pact.
Yes. No one's
Quietly.
aware of that yet, I don't believe.
No. So yeah, this next season, there's such a funny moment. All I'll say is it's from Keyleth's character, but I can't remember where it happened. It might be later down the story, but there's like what is an iconic funny moment from her in like the live action game that I can't wait for them to animate. But yeah, I'm looking forward to season 3 of this.
Yeah, so am I. And then I've just realised the day after the first episode
Yeah.
of The Legend of Vox Machina, we get our first film of the second half of the year, our only film of the second half
Yeah, I was
of
gonna
the
say
year.
the last film that we're super interested in for the podcast at least.
Joker Folie à Dire.
Yes.
4th of October. We both really enjoyed the first Joker film.
Mm-hmm.
It did definitely get kind of. This is the wrong word, but I'm going to say it anyway. Culturally appropriated by weirdos.
I get what you mean.
It got turned into a little bit of an edgelord weirdo anthem instead of just being allowed to be a good film.
Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix has had some not great press over the last few weeks, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm excited for the film. I have got my shout right now is that Lady Gaga is going to blow people away with her performance in this film. I've got such a good feeling about Lady Gaga in this film.
So do I, and I think she's gonna for this film and the style of this film. I think she's gonna play Harley Quinn like superbly.
Very, very confident about that casting.
Something I want to do is go back and watch the first one again because it's been so long since I've seen the first one.
Again, that was 2019 or maybe even earlier.
I did see though this week that the director said there is no plans for a third one. They are more than happy with what they needed to tell story wise in these first two. They don't want to do.
I'm going to be,
which I'm glad about actually.
That kind of comes alongside James Gunn saying it has to be really, really worth it to get an Elseworlds budget because of the risk of confusing people. I think them two comments are not unlinked.
Yeah, I get you.
They're not separate comments.
I think unless they had a really solid want to have done a third one already, story-wise, I think them just going, oh, this was successful, maybe we should make a third one. James Gunn's like, you need to give me a solid reason. So, but I think that's a good thing.
And also being like co-CEO of DC, it's actually there's not that many people who can put pressure on him to greenlight a third one. Then a show that a lot of people have been quite negative about recently, I'm over the moon excited for. Another animated show, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, coming on the 2nd of November.
Yes, finally. I feel like we've been waiting for this for a while.
Yes, we finally got some actual official looks at the animation style.
Yes, we did.
I get why people are a little bit apprehensive about the animation style.
Mm-hmm. No,
I personally think it kicks ass.
Yeah, it's not necessarily my like favorite ever animation style. I don't hate it though, and I'm all for it's animated. Like animated, we've said it with Spider-Verse, we said it with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Have fun and be creative with it, rather than the cookie cutter Pixar look to everything. Like I'm all in.
It's a unique style you're not getting from another animated TV show right now.
And also, like, they are going for like the vision. From what we've seen of the visuals, it's quite clear. Like, how can we make this feel basically like a comic book panels being animated? And I'm
even some like the framing in some of the bits we've seen give comic books the way they cut from one angle to another.
Some of the transitions and the way they cut frames and stuff is like quite clearly they're trying to be like, look, here's a comic book page. What happens if we were to animate the panels and like this actual page was just animated? And I'm all for them going with that style. I think it's something different.
Try something new.
Yeah.
Star Wars TV show.
Yes, finally some more Star Wars.
Scary time to be a Star Wars TV show, but we'll get into that later. Skeleton Crew comes on the 3rd of December. And I know we are both very excited for this.
We are. And I have found out a bit more context on... Because I think when we last talked about this was with the D23 stuff.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure when it takes place or what. So this is during Mando timeline.
Got ya. Just after the fall of the Empire.
Yeah, so after the fall of Empire, I would imagine it is actually similar time to Mando, where you've got all the new Senate and stuff. The main giveaway that people had noticed was, I think it's been stated as it is that timeline, but in the trailer there is some pirate ships that have very similar painting scheme to the pirate ship that was in Mando. You know, the one that was over the top of with the seaweed boy. So there, obviously, people are immediately linking it to that, which is fine. It gives context to when it was.
Yeah.
But also,
we don't know a whole lot about this show in the best way, though, which is kind of refreshing.
I think my only hope is they don't try and link it too hard to like Mando or anything. Like, I'm fine with someone we've seen in a previous thing that is like a very background character shows up in this as another background character. And you're like, oh, okay, it's linked. If they try to be like some main character gets pulled in, I'll be like, oh, come on, you didn't need... If it's done in a way that's like, oh, you're just doing that to tie it to Mando, not doing it so it makes sense.
Who's our pirate friend from Clone Wars and Rebels?
Oh, Hondu.
Yeah. He's the kind of character who I'd be okay with coming up. If there's already a bit of a theme of pirates going on, a reference to him or seeing him isn't a problem.
He should be still alive because we had Cad Bane, who was a lot older. Rebels. Yeah,
but he was in Rebels towards the end of it anyway.
Hondu should be still about. He might be old, so whether he's still involved with these, I don't know. But potential with pirates and stuff, yeah, there is a potential for it.
Next up, something that we didn't even know existed until literally 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And we're already incredibly excited for.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it a bit more in the news, but we'll give a little rundown now. Secret Level, the new show from the makers of Love, Death and Robots,
which is incredible,
which was so good. Are doing a new anthology series on Prime Video, centered around video games. And they've got some big IPs to sign off.
So here's the thing. I don't know how much you know about the creators of Love, Death and Robots.
I don't know much.
Or the studio behind the idea of that. So I think it was a Corridor Digital. They had the guy on. They were going over the Love, Death and Robots ones and talking about stuff. So them as a studio kind of got their name for themselves by doing cinematics for games.
Oh, so they probably got a good relationship with these companies,
with some of the big studios. So that's what they love doing that, and that's why where Love, Death and Robots sort of came from, because there's these studios that do this stuff, and they had that, and then they had this idea of oh look, we know this studio that has this really cool, unique style, or they're really good at doing this sort of facial animation stuff. We'll give them this story. That's where Love, Death and Robots came from. They're basically you're a studio we know and we're friends with. We love what you get to do. Here's this episode. You go have fun with it. Now, the fact that you could tell when it got announced and the creator was on stage at Gamescom, he was very emotional about this project.
Yes.
Clearly a passion project. And yeah, there's some big names. You've got Warhammer 40K's in there.
Yeah.
God of War's in there.
God of War, Dungeons and Dragons,
Dungeons and Dragons,
Mega Man,
Armored Core is one as well.
Sifu,
bunch of different games. I think there's 15 episodes in total. as far as I'm aware, each episode will be a different game, or maybe it'll be a couple of episodes per game. I'm not sure.
Very cool looking though.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Especially as soon as they showed Warhammer 40k, I was like, ooh.
Well, like some of them like made so much sense instantly. Like Warhammer 40k, Mega Man, D&D. I'm like, I absolutely see that. Seeing Sifu was like, ooh, I like that. That's a rogue shout.
There's also New World was one, which
was it?
Yeah, which
I mean that's owned by Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's Amazon Game Studios. So I was like, as soon as I saw New World, I was like, oh, it's on Prime. Oh, they're okay. But that'll be interesting because that's like...
Again, because that's not a game that has a crazy amount of lore there, so they have a fair bit of freedom.
Not established yet, no.
Yeah. So yeah, very cool. I hope this does well enough to make other studios go, oh, do this for my world, please. That looks fun.
I hope it's as successful as like Love, Death and Robots has been. So there's at least we get a couple of seasons of it.
Yeah, very cool concept.
For sure.
And the last thing we're expecting this year, even though we don't have a lockdown date for it yet, is Creature Commandos.
Yes, we know it's coming out December, or at least that's the latest knowledge is it is December, end of the year.
But that's all we know so far. The animated project coming from James Gunn's brand new DCU, the first official project of the DCU.
It is. Which I love that they're kind of launching with an animated show, I'll be honest.
Yeah. So for those who aren't keenly aware, James Gunn's kind of tenets for the DCU are actors are going to act as their characters across all mediums. Video game, voice acting, animated projects, and film and TV. He wants to cast an actor and they play that character across all of the mediums.
Yeah.
So we're starting off with Creature Commandos, which is a subdivision of the Task Force X program.
Yes.
So they are the Suicide Squad, but they're all undead creatures. We've got Frankenstein, we've got Weevil, we've got a bunch of characters.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It looks like it should be fun.
Oh yeah, it looks like it'll be just a fun animated show.
And it'll be our first kind of taste of the DCU, which is always a bit exciting.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can sort themselves out and make it as easy as possible to watch DC TV ASAP.
Yeah. Hopefully.
But yeah, what's that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 projects still between now and the end of the year.
Yeah.
And all but one of them are TV shows. So it's going to be busy, folks. So make sure you hit that
4 are TV and 4 are animated as well.
Yeah, as well. We had a really good year for animation.
Yeah.
So make sure you get subscribed, ring that bell so that you don't miss any of it when we're breaking it down.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, really cool year coming up.
Oh, yeah. Good into the year.
But unfortunately, TV might not live to see another year.
God, if they keep listening to Twitter, everything's going to get cancelled.
Yeah, so we've got some things to talk about. Initially, this was just what's killing film. And Hori probably knows why I came up with that topic. And then people decided to double down, so I was like, fuck it, we'll talk about everything. So, the reason it was originally called What's Killing Film was Borderlands came out on the 9th of August. It did not do particularly well.
Nope.
It's a shit show. It happens, not all films can be good. It sucks that it happened to a big IP of a big budget, but not all films can be good. The big problem is that they announced 4 or 5 days ago that on the 30th of August, a mere 21 days after it came out in theatre, that it would be going to online streaming and digital download.
Do we think that was always the plan?
I don't know. I think so.
I personally don't think it was going to go on that quick. I think it would have been maybe only a couple of weeks or so more. Like,
I just don't think you can make changes to a schedule like that that easily.
I think you probably can.
This is the thing. This is just something we just don't know about that part of the world. I don't know how easy it is to all of a sudden go, we're putting it on streaming services.
Yeah, but it's going on digital release. That doesn't necessarily mean streaming services.
Yeah, no streaming services are going to pay for it.
It's more like, oh, you can now rent it on like Google Play Store or something, or Apple Movies.
Yeah, see, I think that's always been the plan.
Possibly, but I do think that sort of stuff is easy enough to be like, oh no, we're releasing it on this day now. Because it's just changing when it comes but yeah, it's not a great look. It's quite clear that they're like, oh shit, now we need to try and recoup as much of minimize the loss as much as possible. Hopefully people will watch this at home rather than go to the cinema for it. Which I don't think people are really. Maybe some people probably will. They'll probably go, "Oh, I'll give it a shot."
So, and this is what I want to get into, because a lot of people will naturally have a similar reaction to you of, well, they're just trying to make a bit of money from it because it's done so poorly. But this doesn't help anyone. And don't take my word for it, because obviously I'm not in the industry. Matt Damon literally spoke on Hot Ones about this exact problem. He was like, back in the day when you were trying to get a film made, they'd say you'd get someone to give you 100 million to get your film made. 50 million of that's for the film, 50 million of that's for marketing. Cool.
Yep.
You only need to make a third of that at the cinema because you know that you'll make the rest of it on DVD sales.
Yes.
And he's like, so if you make all a third of your cost at the cinema, you weren't worried. Now, with DVDs not being a thing anymore, streaming services paying like shit, and going to or leaving the cinema so quickly, he said something like the expectation is now you've got to make between 50 and 80% of your money back at the cinema. When you consider how much budgets have crept up, you start to see the problem here. And then you have people going, oh, why don't they make all them weird rom-coms and action comedies and just them horse shit but brilliant films you'd love to see?
Yeah.
And it's because it's too big a risk now.
Yeah. No,
I am not old. I'm not. We joke about being old. We are both under the age of 30. We both vividly remember when summer blockbusters were summer blockbusters because they would leave the cinema around this time if it was like height of cinema. They'd come out at the beginning of June or July. They'd run till mid to late August. They'd get 6 to 8 weeks in the cinema. And then you would not be able to see it again until Christmas when it came out on DVD. So what you had was you had a bunch of people who've gone, oh, I've heard that's good after 2 or 3 weeks. And they'd be like, oh, well, we better go see it before it leaves the cinema because then we'll have to wait 6 months to see it.
Oh, yeah, there was time for... Well, the film stayed in the cinema long enough that there was time for word to spread about how good a film was. And then, like you say, because there was that, oh, if we don't see it in the cinema, we have to wait. People are talking about this now. I don't want to miss out, or I want to be part of the conversation. So we best try and find time to go watch it.
Yeah.
That's going.
The issue that we had was streaming services became a thing, and they started offering a fuck ton of money to be able to release a film. So as a result, they started bringing DVDs out sooner. And then because DVDs were coming out sooner, people were like, well, I want to be able to buy it digitally. And they're like, yeah, cool, we can appeal to that as well. That's not a problem. And then people are like, oh, but I still want it sooner. So like, okay, well, DVDs take a while to manufacture. We can put it online straight away. And that is not just hurting cinema as an industry, and meaning less films get made and worse films get made, but it's also hurting cinemas as in actual places you go to watch a film. It's genuinely scary, and it sounds insane because cinema is like, of all forms of media, it's one of the easiest things to say to a co-worker or a friend, oh, have you seen that new so-and-so film?
Yeah.
Like, you can't really do that as much with TV. You can't do it as much with comic books or video games unless you know they're into them things. Whereas cinema in general was always so much bigger. If there was a big film coming out, You'd
Yeah.
go, oh, have you seen that thing? And like, we got a bit of a like the only time I realised how big an issue this was literally this week when a co-worker and IRL friend said to me, "Oh, I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine. It was fucking awesome." He's like, "I've not been to the cinema in ages, but I had to go see it because I'd heard such good things, and it's amazing. I love it so much."
Yeah.
And then I realised, holy shit, we don't hear that anymore.
Well, like, let's be honest. The last time everyone I feel like en masse people talked about going to the cinema was Barbenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the last like huge thing where everyone was like, "Oh my god, you need to go see like Oppenheimer and Barbie, and we're going to do these cinema back-to-back things."
And do you remember what happened with Oppenheimer?
Well,
Christopher Nolan shot that film around to a bunch of different studios because he has strict rules about
yeah,
how quickly it's allowed to go to certain platforms. And here's the thing: you can't expect the director of every film to be powerful enough to pull a
no.
Christopher Nolan.
Well, look at things like the MCU. They bring a director in to their franchise. They're not the ones with the ideas.
They don't get to make demands.
No. So
it's really rough out here. And then on the flip side, TV. Now, this is about the reason that we've thrown this into the mix is because of the Acolyte getting cancelled.
yeah, though not 100% confirmed, but that is a very strong rumor now.
Yes.
Sources.
Now, let me be completely clear. The Acolyte cost too much money to make. It was incredibly expensive. I get that. I get that it didn't hit the viewership that they had decided was necessary for it. I get that. What I don't understand is how people can say, well, it didn't get the viewership, stop blaming people who are horrible about the show. If you go on Twitter and all you see is people being horrific about a show, you are not going to watch it. If you don't already have an opinion, and people who are angry shout the loudest. There's a funny thing. I can't remember what like the like theorem is called, but it basically boils down to if you need an answer about a difficult technical question, don't ask someone for help on the internet. Create a fake account asking for help, and then from your actual account, respond in the completely wrong way and wait for someone to correct you. Because people on the internet much love stepping on someone and proving they're right rather than helping someone. So if you enjoy something, you don't scream about it as much as if you hate something.
Yeah, no,
I'm not saying the negative on social media ruined the show or anything. I am saying it'd be insane to say it didn't have an effect.
Oh yeah. And like here's the thing. It got decent viewership to the ones who were like, oh look, it didn't get good viewers, it was all bots or whatever. No, I'm sure it got decent viewership. Maybe it didn't hit the target that they set. Do I think the story was weak in places? Yeah. Is some of Star Wars scripts weak in places? Yes.
What do you mean? I don't like sand.
People seem to forget they like. I saw things of like, oh well, the Clone Wars that didn't get cancelled because it was and then people are like, are you forgetting that the Clone Wars anime was actually hated at first? The only reason it got made was because George was like, no, that I want this made. Star Wars fans used to hate Ahsoka. They were like, oh, who's this annoying person that's now been added in? Now Star Wars fans love Ahsoka. So my gripe with it is it's like, whatever your opinion of the story and how well it is, fine if you've got your valid reasons. Saying that the loud people on social media that were like, this is trash, this is what's wrong with Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. Disney will see that and will take into consideration that, because it's also the thing of, if you're someone who enjoyed it, you probably were like, oh, that's a good show. Didn't go anywhere shouting and raving about it. So then, if all the people that enjoyed it are just like quietly enjoying it and not necessarily going on social media being like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, because fair enough, it wasn't like amazing. It had its amazing moments, but like, then you've got the people that hated it that are being loud. How are Disney going to hear the people that do enjoy it because they're not saying anything? My biggest annoyance is Disney, if they have in fact actually cancelled this, which it seems like they have, to me makes it hard for me to see how we are ever going to move away from the Skywalker story.
We can't. If they're going to crumble to
Yeah.
angry person stamps feet, it's impossible.
Yeah, this is
It's actually concerning for Star Wars in general.
Oh, the Star Wars fans that had their issues with this, I hope they realize now that we are just going to get the same timeline just absolutely squeezed dry of any part of the story, and then you're going to be like, oh, we're just watching the same timeline all over again. It's like, yeah, well, you killed the only chances we ever had of something.
They are forcing us into a position of just getting these horrific CGI deepfake dummies forever. That's literally what they're pushing it towards.
What's going to happen?
Because what other choice do they have?
Yeah, we're just going to get like every side story possibly done.
Yeah, but they're not going to recast anyone because they'll get angry about that as well. So you're just going to get these horrible deepfake Mark Hamill's over doubles who could pass as Luke Skywalker anyway. It's genuinely concerning. But this isn't just about Star Wars. No. It's about TV in general. So last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember which, we spoke about how long TV shows should be.
Yes.
And actually, the cancellation of this show has proved my point. Because people have been going, how do you ever expect a TV show to survive if you don't give it time to breathe now? The amount of shows that had okay starts and then became all-timers is insane. My favourite example is, of course, Breaking Bad. If you've seen Breaking Bad and then either been referred Breaking Bad or referred it to someone else, you have heard the sentence, you just have to get through the first season, it's a little bit slow going, and then it goes nuts.
A bit like me, who watched the first season, really struggled, and then never went back and watched any more of it.
And when you say that, what's the response you get from people who've seen it? Oh, but once you get through the first season, man, it's so good. Because everyone knows the first season's a bit slow.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it.
Mm-hmm.
If we're just going to cancel shows that have a slow first season now, we're fucked. But also, if it had another 3 episodes and didn't have to rush so much, would it have got to breathe a little bit more? Would it have had more time to get a bit of attention because it wasn't done in 2.5 months? Well, no, it wasn't even that because it did 2-episode launch.
Yeah.
So 9 weeks, and you're trying to capture enough people. But there is also the genuine concern, and Disney Plus have already done this, of it becoming lost media.
Yeah.
So when Disney Plus launched in the UK in 2019 or whenever it was, they had a show called Willow. Which was based on another one of their IPs that I don't know anything about. I must apologise. But they made a show based on this IP. It didn't do very well. They cancelled the show.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of all of the merch they were selling for the show, like they've done with The Acolyte today.
Oh.
And then they took Willow off of Disney Plus. It is now impossible to legally watch this show.
That worries me for what happens to Acolyte then.
And again, wider than Acolyte, how are we supposed to engage with media? Yeah. They say no one wants to watch TV or care about a story anymore. How are you going to let yourself get invested in a story if you know if the first season doesn't put up generational numbers, it's going to get canned anyway?
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, you know what? Let's talk about it this way. We've been doing this for 2 years. We've done 128 episodes. Yeah?
Yeah.
That, like, a lot of sitcoms who get to 100 episodes do specials for 100 episodes.
So do we.
We don't make any money for this. We don't make anything from this. In fact, all this has done is cost us money. We're having to keep up with different subscriptions and films and bullshit.
Yep. Yeah?
Are we cancelling this? No, like, fuck are we? Because we care about that one Dorothy who watches.
Well.
Do you see what I mean?
No,
it's fucking insanity. Yeah. And here's the thing. They refuse to do anything that isn't a big IP. We know this is a problem because they can't rely on its sellability. And then they do something with a big IP and then they crash and burn it anyway. Yep. What are we supposed to do? I say, everyone cancel all your subscriptions to everything other than Dropout. Give Dropout all of the money and let them make originals. Because we can pressure them into not cancelling stuff if we really like it. Thoughts?
I mean, It's wild because obviously we talked about the other week about like how many episodes in the season, and that was a big issue, and that definitely was an issue with Acolyte. It's funny though because it's like I got caught up on House of Dragon, finished season 2 of that, and that was only 8 episodes, but each episode is at least an hour long, so like it doesn't feel as bad. That's now thinking of that is twice the amount of content we got from Acolyte. If Acolyte had hour-long episodes, you could have definitely made people feel more attached to the characters, developed the characters more. Maybe then people would have felt more of an attachment to the show and not been as harsh in places. But yeah, if Disney's just ducking out after a season, like,
I said it was expensive to make.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't give a fuck that it was expensive to make because Disney recorded record profits last year.
Yeah.
So they had a massive dip because of COVID, because obviously they lost a lot of their theme park revenue and other stuff, and a lot of productions got delayed, which cost money. They are now back above and reaching record profits. They made 32 billion in profit. Do you know how much? Like, can you even fathom how much money that is? If I had 32 billion right now, I personally would greenlight another season of Acolyte.
This is the thing. They're making so much in profit. Like, they could very easily burn money for like 3 seasons, and this show does terribly.
And it wouldn't affect them.
No, it wouldn't cause an issue.
And guess what? If they burnt money on the show for 3 years, or even after this, like season 1 doing as well, they go, we're going to half your budget. 90 million is still enough to make a good season of TV, which it is, even if it is Star Wars, which requires stuff.
Yeah.
And you go, right, instead of 180 million a season, we're going to take you down to even 60 million a season, and you get 3 seasons at 60 million to prove that you're worth it. Guess what? In 4 years' time, the people who want to shout and scream will be bored of shouting and screaming about this show, and you'll have a dedicated fan base towards this show, and you'll realise it was a good investment. But now you're going to scrap it. I'm genuinely concerned it's going to get taken off the platform. Put it this way, Jenna doesn't really engage with Star Wars that much. It's not her thing. I asked her if she wanted to watch The Acolyte. She was like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, you don't need to know anything about Star Wars for this, because it is completely disconnected from everything else.
She understands,
like, okay, I'll give it a go then.
Lightsabers, and that's about it.
Yeah. She was like, okay, I'll give it a go then. Seeing as I don't need to do any homework. She fucking loved it. She fucking loved it.
Do you know what'll upset me about that?
It was literally an entry point for people.
We got one of the best Sith performances we've had in years, and it's going to get thrown away.
That character deserved better.
Yeah, like that character is going to... And do you know what's going to happen? I actually genuinely believe, like what happened with the prequels, 10 years down the line, you're going to get a bunch of people that were the younger ones that finally speak up and go, that was like one of the best Sith performances ever, and you guys let it burn and get thrown away.
But are they going to get that? Or is it going to get taken off the streaming platform, and people who aren't quite old enough yet don't even get a chance to discover it? Imagine if Clone Wars got canned. I would never have, like, forgetting all the people, but like, I didn't watch it until it was all already out, and then I went back and watched it.
Here's the thing. The true Star Wars fans, because that shit exists on the wiki now, like that, well, like the memory of it will not get erased. Will you be able to go watch it? Unfortunately, probably not. But then people will be like, oh my god, there was this really cool Sith character and you guys let it get canned.
I am semi-confident there will be some absolute hero of media preservation out there right now, currently illegally pirating all of it so that it's safe somewhere away from Disney's prying eyes. But that's no way we should have to live in the modern era. Stop deleting art, because it is. Even if it's not high art or impactful art, it's still art. It should be preserved. It's craziness.
Can you imagine if like paintings from years ago, if like someone acquired it and they were like, oh, no one's coming to look at this anymore, burn.
Yeah, like, it's fucking insanity. And another thing that made me realise just how much trouble TV's in. Netflix started this problem, although they aren't the cause of the problem, of just like Netflix has like a famous reputation of greenlighting a bunch of shows and then canning 90% of them after one season, no matter how well they did.
Yep.
And that did start the problem. It started the normalization of a show getting cancelled for no reason.
Mm.
But also, at least Netflix made good length seasons. It's crazy to me that watching a 13 episode Jessica Jones Daredevil season feels long now because it was 13 1-hour episodes. I'm like, oh, there's still a lot to go here. That's nice. Because I've been beaten down by Disney Plus into thinking 6, 8, 10 episodes is acceptable, and it's fucking not. I'm sick of it. What are we supposed to do here? They want to keep making money in film and TV. They want to compete with the amount of money video games make. And they're just canning stuff. No one's going to fall in love with a character and watch 8 seasons of your show if you cancel 90% of shows after half a season of actual TV.
It's, I mean, look at, like we talked earlier, Rings of Power is coming out next week. That got very mixed responses, and there was a lot of people after season 1 were like, this is the worst thing for Lord of the Rings. If this had been on Disney, that would have been cancelled, probably already deleted off their platform by now.
Yeah.
And it's like,
what? I understand that they're a business and they've looked at the price tag of Acolyte being 180 million for the 8 episodes, 9 episodes, whatever it was, and they've gone, that's too much. That is completely fair. Guess what? That is your budgeting problem and not spending money in the right place to work out how to be efficient with your money.
Yeah.
We've seen horror films forever and still to this day working on budgets of less than 10 million with practical effects that look phenomenal. There is no excuse. It is laziness.
Yeah. Disney is definitely like a big issue in this. The wildest thing to say, which out of everyone that this has to be, Amazon Prime is actually the least problem. Like they are the only one that doesn't seem to be as much of a problem child at the moment, and are actually pushing animated stuff, IPs that haven't been like had their chance to shine in a long time, coming up with new shows and stuff, and they're not canning anything instantly.
Yeah.
Which is just wild that they're the one.
And that sucks because they're a terrible organisation that I'd love to see burned down, but they're the one who
you only get to pick on one.
Yeah. I can't. I am, as a single individual, I'm not allowed to tear down a company. No. So while no one else is engaged in doing it, I'm not going to shout at the moon until I go blue in the face trying to get it done. I will just try and get through this horrific existence by enjoying things I enjoy no matter where they come from. As long as it's somewhat ethical. But, like, what is going on here? I don't want to be rich. I've said this. I want to be well off enough to, like, not have to worry. But if I'm ever a billionaire, shoot me dead because I've turned my back on who I am. And right now I find myself wanting to be a billionaire just to protect TV. Do you know how insane that is?
My only thing now is, like, I would actually work to become a billionaire to build up enough cash so I can buy the Star Wars IP, and then I don't need to be a billionaire anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'll build up that money to spend on saving Star Wars, and then I'll go back to being like just an average person.
I completely agree. It's terrible. So what can we do to fight back? If you like stuff, make fucking noise.
Yeah.
If you actually like something, you've got to be as loud as the people who dislike it now.
And if you're another, like, the people that are being loud about disliking it, but they aren't actually giving solid reasons, people need to call them out better and be like, okay, so give us a solid reason why you dislike it. Oh, well, it's just Disney Star Wars. That's not a solid reason. Shut up.
Yeah. Ask yourself why if this person has any financial reason to feel that way. There are and I'm not going to say his fucking name because I want him to burn in hell. But if there's a particular person who makes money off their YouTube channel from spouting horrible opinions, ask yourself, are they financially motivated for that opinion? Maybe that's not a trustworthy opinion. That's why you can trust our opinions. We don't make fuck all from this. We have nothing to gain by lying and saying we hate something, or lying and saying we like something. We'll be honest with you.
It's tough. Like, obviously, people are like, oh, we'll cancel your Disney thing plus subscriptions and whatnot. And it's like, unless you get a mass movement for that, unfortunately, it will always be a drop in the water and they won't notice. I think it's easier to be loud on social media and stuff about if a show gets cancelled, that you're not happy, or it's tough. It's in an ideal world, we get a new Disney CEO who actually does give a shit. And isn't all about making profit or trying to sell to Apple. Because unfortunately, the sad thing is, as much as I joke about buying the Star Wars IP if I had the money, Disney will never sell that IP.
Put too much.
Like, they've put too much time into like the Star Wars galaxies at Disney World and stuff. Like, unfortunately, there are people in charge of the Star Wars side, Kathleen, whatever her name is,
Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, who needs to get gone. And there's people at the top of Disney that also need to get gone and let it be a place for creatives again.
And if I see one more person try and claim they should have never made Star Wars political, I'm going to headbutt you. Star Wars is inherently political. War is inherently political.
Yep.
What are we talking about?
Let's just be honest. Life is political. There is no escaping politics. It is everywhere.
Yes. It's fine to go, I disagree with the politics of Star Wars, but guess what? You might just be outing yourself as a fascist.
Be careful which side you choose in Star Wars.
Yeah. It's insanity that this has to be said. Learn to understand what media is conveying for the love of God. Right. Nerd News Network.
Now for more ranting.
Oh, for fuck's sake! I've just seen what the first topic is.
Oh, it's been a week of the news. Let's be honest.
We're not going to say too much on this first one because there is not enough information right now. And the last thing we're going to do is make snap judgments when we know there is more information waiting to come to light.
Yeah.
Bo DeMaio was the head writer of season 1 and 2 of X-Men 97. He was let go by Disney a week before the release of X-Men 97. And then subsequently in June, he had his credit for season 2 stripped away.
Yep.
Some information has come to light this week regarding this situation. It is very messy. It's not very clear. Disney are alleging that he was fired for inappropriate behaviour with colleagues. And there are allegations that he sent explicit and unrequested sexual images of himself and potentially groped members of staff. He's saying this is all a lie, and that he has the evidence to back it up, and that in the coming weeks, in a proper legal setting, that information will come to light. That is all we know right now. There is lots of back and
lawyer
forth.
speak.
Yes, it's always difficult to know what's right here. I never find myself rooting for or against a corporation, for a corporation or against individuals, but there's no real evidence he's provided that would suggest that there's no truth at all to what they're saying, which is always a little bit concerning at this point. He said there is information, but we don't have it yet.
Yeah, it's tough because after the first statements from him, it then became his lawyer making statements.
Yes.
And anyone with their right mind know lawyers are particular about every single word in a statement. So then it's very hard to understand what they're actually like misrepresenting or weaving around from both sides. So yeah, until there's more information, it's impossible to know who is in the right and who's in the wrong.
Yes. All we can hope is that the truth comes to light and we know what happened.
Yeah.
And that is not because I particularly care, but it stops there being any confusion or debate online which could segregate a community.
Yeah, and it's also for fans of who seemingly are fans of a writer or a fan of a show, it's unfair on them if they're supporting someone to then not get if there's information being withheld that would actually be like, oh, you shouldn't, like they did something that they're not happy with. So
yes. Next up, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is due to start filming in January 2025.
Yes.
Whoop whoop.
That film is not out till middle of 2026.
So yeah, take about 3-4 months to film it. Give the FX artists a year to work on it.
Yeah. Once again, James Gunn standing by his statement of why, like, he gives VFX time so much time.
Yeah.
Because he knows they need that time to do the best work.
Exactly. Hilarious bit of news here. A
Yeah.
federal judge has blocked a plan for Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Fox, who were proposing a joint streaming service. I know what you're thinking. That's 3 companies. Why couldn't they do that? Who cares? Well, Fox and Disney are one company.
Yeah.
And Disney own ESPN, which means that is Fox and ESPN, which are the 2 biggest sports providers, already owned by one company, essentially. And then they wanted to get Warner Brothers, who own, I believe, the other main one in ABC. It would have been a complete monopoly. That had to be vetoed. It is actually terrifying how much media is owned by like 6 companies.
Mega corporations.
Mm-hmm. Every day, Johnny Silverhand makes better and better points. I'm not going to nuke a corporate building. I just want to put that out there.
But he is going to start a band.
Yeah, I've just been put on so many lists. Adria Arjona has claimed that Andor Season 2 is better than Season 1.
And that the writing is just incredible.
I really struggle to believe this. Because I genuinely think Andor Season 1 is some of the greatest television.
Knowing that where we are going to reach with Rogue One, and like some of the monologues we got in Season 1, I can already see some of the monologues are just going to be even better as we lead up to these like pivotal moments in the story. Like I can already, like, there's going to be some just incredible moments of acting. I can see it now.
Oh, it's going to be the peak of the peak. In some go woke, go broke news. If that's taken out of context, do you know what the problem is? I know I'm so like
it's gonna be like
left wing and pro things that I make these jokes forgetting that out of context they would sound terrible.
Here's another clip.
When you look like this.
It's gonna be like that clip of you talking about Kamiko, the female.
Yeah, it's terrible. I believe in equality, people. It was just a joke. I'm angry at the world. Kahori, the original Native American character from What If Season 2, is getting her own comic, which is incredible good news. Yeah. And I believe that makes her the first Marvel character to go from screen to page in their own title. Coulson did it as a secondary character in comics because he was originally made for Avengers, or for the MCU. But I believe she is the first character to be a titular character.
Yeah.
As a result of a TV appearance, I think it's really cool. She's a really cool character.
Yeah, I mean,
and more diversity.
Back in What If, we both really loved that episode and thought it was really cool to get like a brand new character in that. Mm-hmm. I think even back then we were like, oh, it'd be cool if this eventually like she gets her own comic or something. So for them to like fully go in on that is very cool.
Yes, absolutely. Sony are not expected to renew their contract with Lord and Miller the duo behind Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse. Now, on the surface, this looks like a shit decision. Dig a bit deeper. Lord and Miller are kind of scumbags.
Okay.
They crunched people very hard at the end of Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And were making changes to the final cut like 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
And they were like on the worst ever pre any kind of union game developer crunch schedules. And they also promised Beyond the Spider-Verse when they knew they couldn't meet that expectation.
No,
So I get why Sony might not want to work with them.
Yeah,
I also don't think they did anything no one else could do.
But isn't the reason that rumored reason is because there's been disagreements on budget for Spider-Man Noir?
Yes. But at the same time, Spider-Man Noir should be a dirty, cheap project, in my opinion. And the rumored project that has been greenlit is like 40 million for the season.
Yeah, and then then also you've got Sony saying that they're claiming that Sony said they were going to reboot Spider-Man for TV.
Yes, and that never happened.
And was never going to happen, let's be real. Yeah, I think it's a case of, once again, Sony mispromising.
Yes.
Being very vague in some of their positioning on some of these projects for both actors, actresses, writers, directors. But then also the punch you make of like, they did, the way they ran the projects around Spider-Verse and stuff was not great for the artists.
We want to see artists treated,
no.
Yeah. We want to see artists treated like
Which is why those studios should be given the Batman Beyond project and go over with James Gunn.
Yeah. Moon Knight 2 or Moon Knight Season 2 is rumored to be in development.
Sorry, what show is that?
And earlier today, I saw rumors that Miss Marvel Season 2 is also in development. In a time when I was getting worried that Disney Plus didn't want to greenlight anything, these are two shows I was really worried about, especially post-Eternal news.
I'm glad that they're getting...
I'm going to say it. Ms. Marvel didn't get a lot of good reception. It got a lot of mixed reception. I love Aman Vellani. I love Kamala Khan. I will watch 100 seasons of that show and 12 movies. Just keep making it.
Yeah, she's great.
She's amazing.
And she loves the character, and she loves Marvel. Like,
if there was a male actor, a white male actor behaving the same way for their character that she does for Miss Marvel, comic book Twitter would be dying for that person.
Well, let's just be real. Look at how people are like, oh my god, RDJ is Tony Stark.
Yes.
Like,
she actually is Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
Like she got the opportunity because of her cosplay and her love for the character as a fan. Then they brought her in and she loved it. Samuel L. Jackson, I believe, is currently the most profitable actor ever. Him and Scarlett Johansson jump backwards and forwards a lot. Whoever released a movie more recently is in first. Said, I loved working with her. She was great. She could answer all our questions. Brie Larson, someone who's had to deal with an ungodly amount of shit from Marvel fans for no reason, who also is a diamond and should be loved. Loved Aman because she was like, she was great. If we didn't know what to do, she'd really help us because she understands it all so much. She's literally the person that every fandom wishes they had. Give her everything. Give her the world.
Well, it's also like the fans, like the comic book fans, complain when they're doing something wrong in these films. She's the one in there being like, no, this is how it goes in the comics. Like this, she's helping correct those things.
She does what Henry Cavill gets so much praise for.
Yeah.
And she does it in a more respectful way most of the time.
Here's my slight gripe with the fact that this is another going back to the issues with Disney and how they're doing the shows. The fact we've had to wait so long for Moon Knight 2. Like, yeah. I get that these Marvel projects are on, like, big cycles for, like...
And there's so many characters.
Yeah, and there's so much going... Like, I get that. But then when you're trying to do TV shows, and if you want someone on... Like, if you're looking at this from the outside, and it's like, oh, Moon Knight, and you just like you watch that and you're like, oh, this is sick. When do I get season 2? And it's like, oh, you've got to wait like 3 years or whatever it's been. Like, oh, like, can you imagine if we had to wait 3 years between seasons of The Bear? We'd be screaming. So I'm glad that it's being rumored that it's back in development, and hopefully all goes ahead smoothly. I'll be very excited for it, but I just wish we'd got it sooner.
It was confirmed on the official Marvel podcast, our little brother of a podcast, that Amadeus Cho and Pearl Pangan will be in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So for those who are not aware, Amadeus Cho, I'm just going to make sure that he is... He is a Hulk.
Okay, that's what I got from the thing you sent me.
Yeah, he's a Korean-American-born Hulk. I believe I've done a character profile on him before. I might have to check that, though. I might have planned on doing it and then not. And then Pearl Pagan is the superhero known as Wave.
Okay.
Very cool character based on what I've seen of her. I don't know too much about her. I assume she's connected to the Atlanteans in some way or another. All I know for a fact is that Jeff the Landshark has been used with her very recently in Marvel Snap as a variant for one of her cards.
And everyone loves Jeff the Landshark.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it'll be cool.
I mean, yeah, it's cool that they're going to go and use some a bit more obscure...
legacy characters, new characters. Give it to me. Spider-Man cartoon is a great way to get people to pay attention to niche characters.
Also helps set up niche characters so that they can maybe use some of them in the MCU because they have to get away from all these ones Sony are touching.
Yes, exactly. This is a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's a start. Rotten Tomatoes have announced a new system.
They have.
So they have, for those who aren't aware, because I feel like a lot of people aren't, Rotten Tomatoes is a reviewing system for film and TV that allows people to review the things out of 5 stars.
Yep.
If the general so when you see like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, that means 80% of the people who reviewed it better than 3 stars.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean it's better than something that was like 75%, because that 75% might have been that 75% of people said it was a 5-star film, and 25% said it was a 3-star film, and the 80% could have been 80% said 4-star.
Yeah.
And then, do you know what I mean? But previously, whether it's certified fresh was based just on the critic score.
Yes.
They've now added a new thing for the audience score, which is about whether it's hot or cold.
Yeah,
hot or stale.
Yeah, and it's verified users as well to try and obviously so you avoid the issue of like bot accounts.
The only real next step for Rotten Tomatoes in regard to the fan score is to verify the person's actually seen the thing, which is a problem, because you can earnestly have a verified account and then decide you want to review bomb something can do it. But I do think it's good because a big thing with Rotten Tomatoes, while it is a valid valid metric, it's only valid if you look at it outside of a bubble. Because if you just look at that score, it's not that good. You've got to look at it as well as other sources of information. But it's a useful source of information. Because there are some films that I will die on the hill of they are like phenomenal films that have really low critic scores, but have great audience scores. And vice versa. And as a general rule, the way I've always looked at it is low critic score used to be, and this is like early days of Marvel when critics hated Marvel, used to be what is like an arty film. If it was a high critic score, that I just use that as like, is it artsy, is it not? And then the fan score I viewed as how much fun is the film.
Yeah.
So if it's an artsy film that's fun, you get Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
If it's not that artsy a film that's fun, you get Avengers. If it's an artsy film that's not a lot of fun, you get Schrodinger's... no, not Schrodinger. Schindler's List.
Schrodinger's cat.
And if it's not an artsy film that's not fun, you get Madam Web. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's literally how I've always viewed it. I'm like, bigger number, closer it is to fun, not fun. Or artsy, not artsy. That's always the way I've done it. So I like that they're now putting a hot or not on it kind of vibe. Because what you can get is you get like a fresh, hot film. And I'm like, cool, that's fresh, that's hot. That is a must see, clearly.
Yeah, it helps.
It's good.
Because you could get like a bunch of critics be like, oh, this is really high, and it's saying it's like, oh, fresh film, and it's like, but then it might not be for a mass audience sort of appeal. Whereas now you're going to get like Deadpool, I presume, has a hot stamp on it with how it's.
I would assume so.
But then you'll get, obviously, Madam Web will no doubt have a stale.
Yeah.
It helps those people that maybe aren't in the realms of like our podcast and that sort of stuff where they get content made reviewing stuff or giving opinions on things. Maybe they're just like, oh, these films are out, let's go to Rotten Tomatoes and just get a glance. Because I know people do, before they even go see a film, they go to that and decide off that if they're going to go watch it. So, yeah, I mean, more detail is always good.
Exactly. More comic book news than normal this week, but fuck it. An all-new Venom comic's been launched or announced. It's called All New Venom. And the reason Horry was aware of this before today was because I sent him the announcement tweet, and I believe my direct quote was, "This suit fucks."
Do you know what's funny?
Or the yellow fucks.
I saw it about 5 minutes before you sent it to me, because obviously I follow the same Twitter account.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that looks cool. Scrolled on. The next second you send it to me like, oh my god, this fucks. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there is a Venom War event going on right now.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what the story of that is. Don't quote me. Venom's not been a bad guy for a long time. He's an anti-hero. It looks like, as a result of that, there is going to be a new host for Venom.
Ooh.
People are thinking it might be Luke Cage.
Ooh.
Because Luke Cage's colour is yellow.
Yeah.
And
cool.
The new Venom design, everything that would traditionally be white is goldy yellow.
Yeah.
It's a street level Venom story. It's interesting. I'm probably not going to read it. I'm collecting far too many comic books as it is right now. And I'm fighting the urge to not add more to my monthly subscription as it is. The Ultimates universe is fucking amazing. So it's cool. If you're a Venom fan, it might be worth checking out. Or if you just want to get into comics and you like the idea of a Venom comic, this might be a really good hopping on point.
True.
Going back to what we've previously discussed earlier on the podcast, but if you're only watching this segment, Acolyte Season 2 is not happening. All merch has been pulled, and fans fear the show may also be about to be pulled from Disney Plus and become lost media like Willow, a previous Disney Plus original.
Trying not to get too much into the same stuff we discussed earlier, but like,
regardless of how we feel about the show being cancelled, the fear of it being lost media is genuinely heartbreaking.
Yeah, the idea that this will end up being just a entry onto the Star Wars wiki, but have a note of you can't watch this anymore is wild. I'm sure on the high seas there may be opportunities, but we don't know how to navigate those places.
No, and I am very tech illiterate.
And we don't recommend that you get a sailing degree. But yeah, I mean, yes, was the show the strongest Star Wars show ever? No. Does it deserve to be cancelled? No, it's had one season. I fear the bigger ramifications of this is we will never leave the Skywalker saga.
Yes.
And this now makes me very worried for the Dawn of the Jedi film that has been announced. Because when they go to that and we get to see the start of the Jedi, if fans react negatively to that film as well, because, oh, you've changed something in the legends, they will no doubt never touch anything outside of Skywalker again. and that is a very sad day for Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as a Doctor Who fan, I am aware that despite a phenomenal effort in recent years because of the coming up of the 60th anniversary, a lot of Doctor Who was thought to be lost. Because when Doctor Who first started, they re-recorded over tapes.
Yeah, there wasn't this like.
Yeah, they didn't think about it.
They didn't think that people down the line would still be loving Doctor Who as much as they are, and be like,
exactly,
this stuff would need to be kept.
And then in the 70s, there was a fire at a BBC storehouse of archives that destroyed a lot of it. Now, through a lot of hard work and a very large team at the BBC for basically the last 20 years, they've got together basically everything, and I think it's only like 5% of Doctor Who is lost now, which is still scarily high, but so much lower than it was at one point.
Yeah.
So being like, as a result of my love of Doctor Who, I'm so keenly aware of lost media and how scary it is. To see that a show made in 2024 could literally just be taken away, never to be seen again, is crazy. I'm going to say it. Yes, Disney own the IP. They do not own Star Wars. They don't own it. The fans do. It's the same with everything that is driven by fans and a fandom. They don't own it. Yeah, cool. They make the money from it, and they incur the cost of making it, and they hope to make a profit. Cool. It's owned by the fans. So Disney can sue me. I'm worth dick all. Steal it, pirate it, save it, keep it somewhere safe. And if there's anything you care about that is on a streaming platform, do the same thing. Piracy is not immoral when it comes to content that might get taken away at a moment's notice.
It's not stealing if no one owns it.
Exactly. If there is no way for me to purchase it, it's not stealing. It's the same with video games. It's the same with books. It's the same with TV. You've just got to protect what you care about.
I'm sure
media does matter.
I'm sure there is a collective out there that have actually got an absolute huge archive of everything protected.
The big problem with these kind of archives is they have to keep them really quiet so they don't get sued.
Yeah.
But as a result of that, no one knows where to find them. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Fucking weird one.
In the wildest streaming news.
In a world where it feels like all streaming services are saying they can't make any money, they don't know why they invested in it, the quality's going through the floor, it's getting too expensive. Chick-fil-A, the chicken people in America, have announced that they are entering the streaming space with plans of making their own streaming service and making their own original shows.
It's partnered with somebody. I forget who it was.
But what?
The funniest. I
literally double checked to make sure it wasn't April 1st. It's August, and I checked to make sure it wasn't April 1st.
The funniest response to this I saw was, "Oh, does that mean the streaming site will be closed on Sundays?"
Because Chick-fil-A not open on Sundays.
Chick-fil-A is famously known for being closed on a Sunday. Like, that's just part of their thing. So everyone's like, "Oh, so you're going to go to the website on a Sunday?" And it's like, you can't stream today. Sorry, come back on Monday.
It's just so weird, isn't it? Like, I'm losing my mind here. What do you mean? But yeah, it's funny.
Like, I get, don't get me wrong, I get diversifying your business to withstand financial storms that we are quite clearly as a world going through. Diversifying from chicken takeaway, essentially, to streaming service is quite the jump.
It is. It's not like you've learned anything from restaurant infrastructure that would help you, I think.
No. Unless you're going to offer, like, free Chick-fil-A vouchers
No, imagine they make it like a $20 a month subscription and you get 10% off at Chick-fil-A.
It wouldn't surprise. The only thought in my head is like, oh, people order food for while they watch films and stuff. Are they going to do some weird combo like to try and get people buying more Chick-fil-A? I don't know. It's very weird. It also feels like it could be one of those things that they announce and then a year down the line it's like, oh yeah, no, we shelved that idea.
Do you know what I also don't understand? To an extent.
Go on.
Anyone can kind of make a streaming service.
Yeah.
You just need to make a YouTube channel get it monetized, set your membership price to whatever you want, and then just make content that is for members only.
Well, we talk about them enough. Look at Dropout. That was literally them going, we're just going to make a streaming, like, if you want to watch our high quality content, we're just going to make our own streaming site.
But like that like you can do that natively in YouTube. I'm sure there are logical reasons that you'd want your own back end and stuff. But at its core, that's the exact same thing.
At the end of the day, you just need the money to pay for the licensing for this content, and then you make that money back through subscription. It's just very weird.
Secret Level we discussed it in what's coming up for the rest of the year, so if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. But new anthology series coming from the makers of Love, Death and Robots.
Yeah,
looks very cool. An
incredible series.
Yes.
I was telling you in the what's coming up this year, but they are the people that have created the show. As far as now, this is my memory, so take it with a pinch of salt. But as far as I'm aware,
very old.
The studio behind the idea of Love, Death and Robots and what kind of organized all that and made that show happen were a CGI studio, did a lot of video game cutscenes that we love. I'm pretty sure they did like Warhammer and stuff like that. So they know what they were doing. The idea that they would now do a game version of like Love, Death and Robots, I think is incredible. Some incredible IP names, such as Warhammer 40k. There's one I forgot earlier, but Pac-Man is in there. Which there's a clip of like a very golden metal ball that looks very aggressive. And I love the idea that some of these stories, they are not necessarily like a cutscene as if they were pulled from the games that we know. It is the IPs in a story based around that IP, whether it's the characters or whatnot.
They've got a good mix of established storytelling worlds where there's quite a bit of lore already they get to play within. And then you've got stuff like Mega Man and Pac-Man, which are incredibly well known, but don't have a ton of lore, which means you can get a bit weird with it.
Do you know what's going to be cool for the Pac-Man one? If it's like some alien planet, essentially, and Pac-Man is just this metallic robot that just consumes everything on this planet, and the ghosts are like the actual native things. Like, what if they turn it into like Pac-Man is like an AI that's gone rogue, and it's like everyone is afraid of these things.
Yeah, I saw that, and I literally said we should probably watch that for the podcast. That looks fucking awesome.
It's gonna be really good, and it's out.
It might be for things that aren't in our typical wheelhouse. It might be the quickest we've ever agreed that yes, that's going on the list.
I saw Warhammer 40k, and I was like, I'm sold.
And brilliant news,
there's still a lawsuit going on, but positive.
And funny for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Funny in very late stage capitalism funny.
Yeah.
Disney have backpedaled on trying to force the man who's suing them for the wrongful death of his wife into arbitration. So for those who missed it, a man signed up for Disney Plus in 2019.
Yeah.
In 2023 at Disney Springs, after being assured that there were no allergen contaminations, his wife died from an allergen contamination.
Anaphylactic shock.
Yes, which is terribly sad. Yeah. And it should never, ever happen. It's insane. So, rightfully so, he is suing them for wrongful death because they were assured it was perfectly safe.
Yep.
Disney tried to use the terms of service from when he used Disney Plus in 2019.
On a free trial.
To claim that he'd agreed to all lawsuits against Disney had to go through arbitration first, which they would then have used to bully him into a much lower settlement.
Yep.
And also, by the way, I think he's only asking for $500,000.
Yeah, I don't know the details of how much,
it's nothing. And rightfully so, and in a rare internet W, everyone went, Disney, what the fuck are you
Yeah.
doing? And for a week straight, like I've seen memes of people getting like an invite code to a free Disney Plus trial, going, "Oh my god, they're trying to kill my wife."
Yeah, well, this thing, the internet got wind of it, and then the internet does what the internet does, and actually, the fact that the internet memed the idea that Disney kills partners through Disney Plus, that meme was actually more damaging and louder to Disney than if like people were just like, this is wrong, because suddenly that's a public image being affected and they're like, oh shit. And thankfully they were smart enough and they've backed down.
Do you know what this is kind of the inverse of? Have you ever heard of the McDonald's hot coffee incident?
No.
Okay, so it's a very famous story. And the story goes, this idiot woman spilt a coffee on herself and then sued Disney because it sued McDonald's because it was hot.
I think I do recall hearing about this.
So for years you've had people going, "Oh, you spilt hot coffee, you're an idiot, and you sued and got money for it. You're so dumb. You got $1 million because you don't understand coffee's hot."
Yeah.
And that actually wasn't the case at all. That was the propaganda that McDonald's put out. The real case was a grandson had taken his very elderly grandmother to McDonald's for a coffee. He got her a coffee. She did spill it on herself, and it left third-degree burns. They were suing for the medical expenses. McDonald's tried to fight it back by claiming that she was an idiot, essentially. And independent adjudicators went in. They found out that McDonald's had been warned 4 times before they were serving coffee illegally hot because their machine was set too high. And it had happened again. So then they went, fuck that, you're getting more than what you asked for, you're getting $1 million. But then McDonald's spent a load of money trying to put stories in the press about how an idiot who doesn't know coffee's hot sued them for $1 million. When in actual fact, they just wanted like $100,000 for the medical expenses of the horrific injuries received.
Money on PR can do.
Yeah. And like I say, this is almost the inverse of that, because the person was just trying to sue for wrongful death. But Disney, by trying to get around it, have inadvertently created this idea that signing up for Disney Plus lets Disney kill your loved ones.
Yeah. Which is not an image Disney wants at all.
Which is why they've backpedaled so quickly. And like, did you see their one second, let me find their press release. Disney Plus press release.
The only kind of on the Disney side of things, because they will be using a third-party law firm or whatever, I feel bad if this was, like I was saying the other week, like, there's a theory that this probably was some intern came up with the idea because they read something. They're like, oh my God, look, this is a great idea. I just hope that whoever found that initial like case and was like, oh, we could use this as an option. Like this worked in this case and they ran with it, not really realizing what they were like putting in motion. Hopefully they haven't been overly punished for that. Because at the end of the day, they were just doing their job. But
I can't find the article, but basically in their official press release, they said, we care about life above all else. We weren't trying to make an already difficult situation more difficult. We always strive to do the right thing. And it's like, why are you trying to act like you realised you made a mistake of your own accord? Like the internet didn't collectively go, you dumb fucks.
That's written by a PR firm and
it's crazy. But yeah, hold corporations accountable. We have so much power as a collective when we work together. It's actually insane. The problem is they've done such a good job of having us fighting over stupid bullshit that they get away with stuff that actually matters far too often.
Yep.
Right. That is it from us this week. What an
is.
episode. Crazy. Yeah. Next week we've got Rings of Power.
We do the first 2 episodes.
Stuff, I'm sure. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're ringing bells. Go follow us on TikTok. It's great over there. And we'll see you next time.
See you next week.